Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Westfall, please call the roll.
Harold Brown,
Present.
Maxine Drew,
Present.
Janie Humphreys,
Present.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Present.
Alenia Wynn,
Present.
Casey Yeager.
Present.
And I need to find, having some computer problems up here. Do you have the, right there? Thank you, please. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start every meeting, we read the board norms and protocols. They are as follows. We agree to respect differences of opinions in making decisions for the district. We agree to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself. We agree to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings. We agree to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district. We agree to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshops as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings. And we agree to continue self-check to determine if we are following our norms when conducting district business. Thank you. I'd like to have a motion, please, to approve the regular agenda.
So move. Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the regular agenda. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Good evening, Dr. Faust. You ready to shall we trade back? Thank you.
How's everyone?
We're fine, thank you.
So it is July, and we are all in. Got a little sun. I'm a little sun, I guess we'll call it sun-kissed, sunburned, but ready to take off. We've had 2 days of leadership training, professional development, and I just had the opportunity to speak with all of the school leaders, and actually I think all the leaders were in there. So it has been a great 2 days getting the information back from some of the principals who walked up and said they were excited, ready to take off, ready to move, and looking forward to another great school year. So thank you again.
Thank you. And to break the pattern, I will ask for board comments first, and then I'll be last. Board comments?
I enjoyed being at the administrator meeting this morning. I got caught talking on the 4-0. It was nice to see new faces and seasoned faces. And then this afternoon, Ms. Drew and I popped into the substitute orientation to see what our substitutes go through, and that was very, very informative. So I'd like to thank you for sending us out the calendar with everything that's going on.
Okay.
Okay. I had the opportunity to attend the new administrators meeting, and it was a pleasure. Again, want to welcome everyone to our district. And again, thank you for the opportunity to meet everyone. That was a blessing.
And likewise, I'd like to welcome everybody, including our new members of, I get in trouble if I say the family, but that it was a pleasure. We enjoyed the enthusiasm. And as members of the board, I personally say, as a member representing the community also welcomes you and want to see and probably will ask you to exhibit, to show. We're hungry for commitment. We're hungry for commitment to the success of our students. And so welcome. On behalf of myself and behalf of our community. The second item, This is the second year that I have successfully been a tri-director of the Culturally Relevant Pedagogy Seminar at Washburn. And later on during the year, Dr. Faust, and I see there's an item on the agenda that is relevant. We have 2 graduates now from our district that survived a very culturally intensive seminar, so that when they do complete it after class testing, the Kansas Department of Education credentials them as trainers. And so we're very proud of the commitment from Washburn, the commitment from the Kansas Board of Education, and the commitment from KSDE. The third item would have been an update from either you or McInerney Van Cleve. Do you have an update on Mr. Brady's status?
I do not.
Okay. All right, so we're at a 15-day mark, and hopefully within 30 days we'll have some update. Greg is very aware, although he was not aware of the Social Security paperwork, so that we may be passing the pan for a second, but we know at the end of the day the retirement benefits of a former music director from the district will be resolved. Okay? All right, any others after you thought of something? Nope. Thank you. And now, Mrs. Westphal, do we have community input?
We do. Mr. Bland?
And before the community input, we are to Mr. Dink. Can you, or would you like me to explain the rules for community comment?
Go ahead and do so,
Oh, thank you very much.
Madam President.
Thank you very much. In essence, please state your name, address, and that you have 2 to 3 minutes of, and that we will, we don't, comment, but we do receive and welcome your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the Kansas City, Kansas School Board. As in past years, I would ask that you hold the line when it comes to property taxes for the district's budget for the coming year. Business West has about 75 members, mostly small businesses. Property taxes are a major consideration for most of these small businesses. It is also a consideration for a business that is considering moving here. Property taxes are also a factor that affects residential development. In my case, as both a residential and commercial property taxpayer, a third of my tax bill goes to the Kansas City, Kansas School District. I continue to be concerned about the low graduation rate for the district. Even more disturbing is those who have received diplomas but must take remedial reading and math classes at the community college. It appears that property valuations in Wyandotte County have increased about 6%. I would hope that that means taxpayers could expect relief. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
We have Ms. Amber Buck.
Ms. Buck, please.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Amber Buck. Unfortunately, every year at least one Kansas City, Kansas public school student loses his or her life to gun violence or other unfortunate circumstances. When graduation time comes around, students, faculty, and families are often left wondering what, if anything, will be done to memorialize that child as a part of commencement. Because of this and many other reasons, I firmly believe that the KCK Public School District should develop a written policy for memorialization of students at graduation ceremonies, a best practice that is suggested by the National Association of School Psychologists. A written policy would add to the feeling of community that the district says it is trying to establish and maintain. It aligns to the social, emotional, and character development standards. And lastly, it would be a respectful and consistent way to acknowledge the lost lives and lost potential of our students. In KCK, the memorialization process for graduation is very much up in the air. For example, at this year's Schlegel graduation, a student presented a poem for Delicia Johnson, who would have been a graduating senior but was struck and killed by a car her junior year. However, at Harmon's graduation, Brene Brown, a student who was shot and killed her sophomore year, wasn't mentioned during the ceremony. Brene also should have been graduating this year. Her friends decorated their caps in her honor, but memorial cap decorations at Schlegel were not allowed this year. There's just too much variation. Having a district-wide policy that outlines how to memorialize students who die is unfortunately a necessary part of educating in KCK. Now, moving forward, I've provided URLs and copies of resources that can help the board kickstart a research-based effort to establishing a district-wide policy. These sources included come from the Suzanne Dwork Peck School of Social Work at my alma mater, the University of Southern California, as well as the National Center for School Crisis and Bereavement and the National Association of School Psychologists. Lastly, I've also included an example policy from the Fort Lupton, Colorado School District that could easily be edited and quickly applied here in KCK. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I need a motion, please, to adjourn to sine die.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn to sine die. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Number 5 is reorganization of the board. Election of board president. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
I'll read the votes. Vote for Maxine Drew by Ms. Drew. Vote for Valdina Nguyen by Mr. Brown. Vote for Dr. Nguyen, Wanda Brownlee Page. Vote for Dr. Nguyen by Dr. Nguyen. Vote for Maxine Drew by Janie Humphreys. And a vote for Maxine Drew by Stacy Yeager. So we have 3-3, so no clear.
Correct. Right, takes 4 to have action of the board. So in that circumstance, I did talk to Greg about this eventuality. The recommendation of KASB in these types of circumstances is after the initial ballot is cast a second ballot. If we are still deadlocked after a second ballot, he recommended that the matter be tabled to the next meeting.
Vote for Maxine Drew by Ms. Drew. Dr. Nguyen vote for Dr. Nguyen by Mr. Brown. Vote for Dr. Nguyen, Ms. Page. Vote for Dr. Nguyen by Dr. Nguyen. Vote for Ms. Drew by Ms. Humphries. And a vote for Ms. Drew by Dr. Yeager. Again, we have 3 and 3.
Okay. So the recommendation is that the matter be tabled until the next meeting. Greg did provide to me the statutory reference, and it is stated at KSA 72-1133, which provides that in pertinent part, the president and vice president shall each serve for a 1 year, or for a term of 1 year, and until his successor is elected and qualified. So pursuant to the statutory provision, Dr. Nguyen would continue in the position of president until there could be action at a subsequent meeting whereby decisive action may be taken.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we end up and we do this again and we vote twice and it's still tied, then what happens? Because I'm always in awe that we don't follow Robert's Rules of Order, and I get that. It's just a little different. But then what do we do?
So this wouldn't, even though you don't follow Robert's rules, this wouldn't be terribly different than Robert's rules. I mean, in terms of you taking decisive action, Kansas statutes dictate that you have to have action of a majority of the quorum, which in your case is 4 members of the board that have to take decisive action. Robert's rules may be somewhat different in that you can take action by a majority of the quorum then present, rather than the elected quorum in this case. But that being said, it is very common for even bodies. I represent a number of municipalities that they all have policies, adopted policies that they've adopted through home rule, where they have the very same action because they don't just want to bear less than a majority of the board to be able to take action to bind the board, just because there were, for example, if you only had 4 members present of the quorum, you could have 3 take action, which would be less than a majority of the quorum. So I'm not sure you'd get a different result even if you did follow Robert's rules. You still have to have a majority of the board to arrive at final action.
Ready? Election of the board
So
vice president.
We need a motion to table.
Correct.
Need a motion to table.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to table the election of the board president until the next meeting,
That's the effect of tabling. It automatically comes up at the next meeting.
next meeting. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Election of board vice president.
Vote for Dr. Yeager by Ms. Drew. Vote for Wanda Brownlee Page by Mr. Brown. vote for Ms. Page by Ms. Page. A vote for Ms. Page by Dr. Nguyen. A vote for Dr. Yeager by Janie Humphreys. And a vote for Dr. Yeager by Dr. Yeager. So 3-3.
I would recommend we follow the same process.
Need a mo-
Being mindful, I mean, that's a recommendation on my part. It's up to this board to decide to take that action that they deem appropriate.
Want to vote again or table?
What's the pleasure?
I believe we need to table it, the same as for the president.
Need a motion, please, to table the election of the board vice president?
So move.
Been moved in second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Item C, annual appointment of board positions.
Okay. Sorry. That the Kansas Board of Education approve appointment of a clerk, deputy clerk, legal counsel, treasurer, and deputy treasurer, as recommended by myself, Charles Fowl, Superintendent of Schools.
For explanation, the items are listed below. Susan Westfall, clerk; Bridget DeSmit, deputy clerk; Greg Goheen, legal counsel; Tracy Kaiser, treasurer; Brad Isnar, deputy treasurer.
So move. Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the recommendation for the appointment of board positions. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution on official meeting time and place of Board of Education.
I don't know if this is the proper time, but I'd like to amend that motion to change the time from 5 to 4. I don't know if we do it, because I was told I need to do it before you present it.
I'm just reviewing your handbook and see, don't see anything in the handbook that would prohibit that at page 25. And so your handbook's adopted by resolution, Greg told me. So that's why I wanted to look at that, because if you were going to do something different than that, then you would probably need to amend your underlying resolution, which adopts this. But what your board handbook says is simply that regular meetings of the board are those meetings listed on its annual schedule of meetings, voted on at the reorganization meeting. So you have authority and discretion, as I read it, to set your meetings and your meeting schedule at this meeting.
So it's been moved. Need a second.
Could you repeat what it was?
Please repeat your motion.
My motion is that we change the time. I don't have a problem with the place to 4 o'clock instead of 5.
Still on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Second and fourth Tuesday.
Right.
And then we do have 4 listed in there at school in the morning. Are you still good with that?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the morning meetings.
Been moved. There's a second?
So move.
Been moved and seconded to approve the resolution of the meeting place, the meeting date, but that the time be moved to 4 p.m.
I want to make a comment.
So discussion.
So at 4 o'clock, elementary schools do not get out until 4 p.m. My child is in elementary school until 4 p.m. there's a lot of activities that involve principals at schools who end at 4:00 PM. That time would not work good for me, and I also think it would not work good for our principals, as well as the community. Many of our community members do not get off of work in time to be able to attend our 4:00 if it were changed to 4:00. So I would not be in favor of moving the time.
Well, I just want to remind some people that it was 4 o'clock prior to us coming on this last year.
It was
And
not.
people, yes, it was 4.
No, it was not.
Well, we didn't have it at 5.
It was at 5.
No, it wasn't always 5.
It's 5.
It was 5.
We had some special meetings that started at 4, but
But
the
it was at
regular
5.
meetings have started at 5 for many years.
Especially because, again, our elementary schools do not let out until 4:00.
Well, I propose that because we have long meetings. I get that, I understand that. But to make it where we're not here all night, that's why I was saying we need to move it up an hour. And we all can do what we need to do.
I think when we recommended the various committees to talk about the various things prior to the meetings would help reduce the meeting time, which is why I recommended various committees. And with those committees, I believe that would reduce our time here in meeting, because those smaller committees will be able to meet in advance and ask questions in advance, so we would not be here all night.
And I object to it because hopefully we'll be doing Student of the Month this year. We kind of lost it last year. And our parents, very few of them can get here at 4 o'clock. It's a rush sometimes for them to get here at 5. And they want to come and celebrate their children. A 4 o'clock time does not enable them to do that.
Other comments? Call the question?
Question.
There's a motion on the floor to change the time of the meeting from 5 to 4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion failed.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting time and place as designated on our agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the resolution, adopt the resolution of the official meeting time and place for 5 p.m., second and fourth Tuesday, central office, unless designated the 4 at the school location, at the school meetings. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passed. Approve the resolution to establish school term of 1,116 hours for the 2019-20 school year.
I ask that the Kansas Board of Education approve a resolution that establishes a school term consisting of not less than 1,116 hours for the 1920 school year as recommended by myself, Charles Faust, Superintendent.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Oh, I sent a note to Dr. Faust and Dennis Covington relating to the explanation for this. Some of the other schools have an explanation as to why, how that fits into our school structure from KSA. And so I'm asking that the email that you guys received, did you guys receive that explanation? If we could add that so that our parents would understand what the hour difference is versus the day difference, because that question comes up a lot. So I'm just asking that be included on our website or somewhere to help explain what the hours mean.
Does that need to be an amended motion?
I'm not amending the motion.
But the resolution does not state that, and that is your preference.
Board Clerk, I lost track where we were. We have a motion and a second.
A motion and a second and then
That was just a question.
Dr.
Yeah,
Yeager.
so it's been moved, seconded, the question as suggested by Dr. Faust. So the question is ready to be voted upon unless something that occurred during discussion, whether the movement wants to accept that as a friendly amendment or anything like that.
Just an explanation. I would accept it as a friendly,
Okay.
excuse me, who made the motion?
I make the motion. If you would accept it as a friendly amendment,
Add the additional information.
to add the
Yeah.
additional information on the website.
She made the motion, can't accept the friendly amendment.
Oh,
So you made the motion to
Yes.
approve? Well, you can, well, once it's been seconded, you can't, it can't be, the motion can't be withdrawn, although you can accept it as a friendly amendment to your motion.
I want to accept it as a friendly amendment to my motion.
Okay, any objection?
So then with that friendly amendment, now you need a new second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to add additional clarification to the resolution. Is it clear? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve designation of employees to report noncompliance of compulsory attendance.
Ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve certain employees listed below to report noncompliance or compulsory attendance, as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
And those employees are Lisa Garcia, Director of Student Services, Octavio Estrella, Assistant Director of Alternative Services, Valerie Anziek, Coordinator of Student Services, Henry Horn, Chief of KCKPS Police Headquarters, Michael Webb, Deputy Chief of KCKPS Police Headquarters, Sergeant Robert Graham Headquarters, and Sergeant Seiler Colaco, as well as those listed, school and library-based officers and
Principal.
Principals. and
Principals.
administrators.
and assistant principals. Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution designating non-discrimination coordinator and disability compliance coordinator and publication of the notice of non-discrimination.
I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education designate Stephen Linkus, Chief of Staff, as its non-discrimination coordinator, and Dr. Michelle Coven, Director of Special Education, as its disability compliance coordinator for the 2019-20 school year, and adopt the annual publication notice of non-discrimination as per proposed resolution and notice as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Is this inserted at the back of the student conduct manual? Maybe we can put it at the front of the student conduct manual. Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution designating banks and savings and loans as depositories for funds.
That's that the Kansas City Board of Education approved the attached resolution designating banks and savings and loans as depositories for funds of Unified School District Number 500, as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So move. Second.
Been moved and second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution to waive the annual requirements of generally accepted accounting principles and fixed asset accounting.
That's that the Kansas City Board of Education approve a resolution to waive the annual requirements of general accepted accounting principles and fixed assets accounting as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and is recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So move. Second.
Been moved and second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution for destroying various documents, records, and papers.
Ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the attached resolution authorizing destroying various documents, records, and papers as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Can we keep in mind the situation with Dr. Brady? Mr. Brady, the music teacher, I know the time spans that he set for destroying things, but we need to make sure.
This is like 5 years. On the second page, it talks about.
Okay, no, I saw that, but I'm just saying, he didn't apply for retirement. He's never applied for it through Capers. So I just want to make sure, I know we're going to throw away things. Let's make sure we don't forget his situation.
Question, Mr. Dink, what would those be? Hiring?
Are we allowed to discuss a personnel matter in open forum?
Yeah,
Kind of makes me uneasy.
we should refrain from discussing individual employees. I will say with respect to the document destruction policy, let me pull it up here, but there are specific requirements separate and apart from the policy that you're adopting here under both federal and state law with respect to retention of employment records. So to the extent we're required, whether it be by Capers or, there are record-keeping requirements in the Americans with Disabilities Act, all kinds of record-keeping requirements. We would obviously still comply with federal and state law. And with respect to anybody's retirement records, we certainly have to comply with Capers requirements in communicating with them relating to their retirement eligibility. Not commenting about anybody's specific situation, but, this sunset of 5 years doesn't mean that we aren't going to comply with other federal and state laws, which often compel us to retain records longer than that.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution designating Freedom of Information Officer for 1920 school year.
That's that the Kansas City Board of Education approve a resolution designating Melissa Bedford Fears, Director of Communications, as its Freedom of Information Officer for the 1920 school year as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution appointing agent and also signs for Capers.
Ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve a resolution designating Tracy Kaiser, Executive Director of Business, as agent for the Kansas Public Employee Retirement System, Capers, and Brad Isner, Deputy Treasurer, Crystal Primers, Benefits Specialist, and Carmen Lee, Benefits Clerk, as also signs, as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and is recommended by myself, Charles Faust, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve appointment of District Hearing Officer for 1920 school year.
And ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the appointment of a district hearing officer for the 1920 school year for the purpose of conducting hearings on extended suspension and expulsion of students and the review of employee terminations as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So
I need, before you do that, I want to recluse myself because it's a relative, so I just want it on the record, because I don't want anybody to say that I didn't follow the proper protocol.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve appointment of District Hearing Officer for 1920 school year. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution designating Food Service Representative.
Ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve a resolution designating Josh Mathemeyer, Director of Nutritional Services, as an authorized representative of the Food Service Program and submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Finance Officer, and as recommended by myself, Charles Faust, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve appointment of hearing officer for free reduced meal application appeals.
I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the appointment of Lenora Miller, Executive Director, as hearing officer for the 1920 school year for the purpose of conducting hearings for free and reduced price meal application appeals as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution designating coordinator for homeless children duties.
I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve a resolution designating Jessica R. Smith, McKinney-Vento Liaison, as its coordinator for homeless children duties for the 1920 school years, recommended by myself, Charles Fowl, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution designating official district newspaper. Got it?
Got it, yes. I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve a resolution designating the Record News as its official district paper for the 1920 school years, recommended by myself, Charles Fowl, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution to declare intent to exercise home rule authority.
Ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve a resolution acknowledging and declaring the intent to exercise home rule authority as recommended by myself, Charles Fouse, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve resolution for disposal of surplus property.
Ask that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the attached resolution for disposal of surplus property as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, Wayne Correll, Director of Purchasing, and as recommended by myself, Charles Fowl, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Approve continued use of contracts as identified in KSA 72-6760, paragraph B, paragraph P, for purchased goods and services.
I'd ask that the Kansas Public Schools Board of Education approve the continued use of the contracts identified in KSA 72-6760, BP, for the purchase of materials, goods, or wares as submitted by Wayne Correll, Director of Purchasing, Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, Carol Levers, Director of Libraries, and as recommended by myself, Charles Fowl, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Is this the, Mr. Dink, is this the statute that would identify a local vendor as having preference? I don't see it stated.
I'm Wayne Correll, Director of Purchasing. This
Sorry.
gives us the opportunity to use cooperative agreements, state
Right.
contracts, GSA schedule for various items. It does not cover the local
Okay,
preference.
yeah, because I see a MEC in here,
You see what?
Higher Education Compact.
Oh, yes, it's in there.
Any other discussion? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Need a motion, please, to come out of sine die and return to public session.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Good evening, Mr. Covington. Board reports, bond update.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Our bond projects are moving along. I have our partners here from J.E. Dunn to go over our bond report and to cover the requested information from the last meeting.
Very good. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President, Board, Dr. Faust. Thanks for having me tonight. Lee Moore, J.E. Dunn. So first document we're going to start with is our updated bidder recruitment and results document. So 2 pages, 11 by 17, lots of information on here. I basically provided every project that we've bid out so far, which is what made it 2 pages. So I'll tee this up really quick. Obviously, moving left to right, we've got an explanation of the line item there under the first column there. The bond totals is what we'll talk about tonight. That's the lightly gray shaded column. And then the rest of the columns, like I said, are all the projects listed out by work package. I put a red arrow above 4 of them, and those are the 4 that are new since the last report you received back in January. So
Okay.
the rest of the information you've seen previously, but I just put it all
Thank you.
in one document. So, the projects that you hadn't seen since January, work package 6C was Washington, which bid back in late January, and then we got the results after that. Before I go through the individual columns, let me tee up kind of what the information is moving left to right. So if you'll scroll back over to the far left there for me. So we've got this sectioned in 6 categories. The first 2 rows there, bid date and plan rooms. But then we go through minority business enterprise, which is section A, women business enterprise, which is section B, local business enterprise, section C. Section C1 has been added since January. That was requested to break out of section C, how many of section C was minority business enterprise. And so that's a subcategory to the local. And then sections D and E are basically for the entire bond project and by individual project, total minority women and local, and then total non-minority women and local. So again, if we go down the bond totals and just kind of give you a brief overlay on that gray column there. So if you look at line items 1 through 5, that'll give us the MBE summary. And basically, to date, line item 4 there, actual dollars. So we've awarded just over $9 million to minority business, which is 6.7% of the trade partner contracts that we've issued. Women, which is line item women business, which is section B there, line items 9 and 10, just a little bit higher than minority there at 9.6 million, which has just got us right at 7%. Local, which is section C, line items 14 and 15, so close to $75 million, which is 54, almost 55% of the dollars awarded. And then the MBE portion of the local, which is line items 12 through 15 there in section C1, we're about a little under $5 million, which is 3.6%.
Please note that you're on the second page.
Sorry?
Please note you're on the second page. We're
Okay.
following you.
The bond totals are the same on both
Yeah.
pages.
Yeah.
So that's that gives us a breakdown of each individual category, and then total MW&L for the entire project. So that's section D in the bond totals gray column. So we're at little under $87 million, which is about 64% there, and then the corresponding number of non-MWL is 50 million, which is line item 26 there, which is 37%. So would you like to go into any more detail on any of the individual projects? Or do you have any questions for me on what we've discussed?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I see you did a great job, by the way. But do you have a scope of work for the minority companies? What kind of scope of work do they perform?
It's going to be all across the board. I'm not prepared to answer
Right.
that question, but we've got, I'd say electricians, plumbers, even some drywall, ceiling grid, that sort of thing.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that's probably all across the board, though,
Okay.
depending on the project.
Thank you.
Good, okay. So the next one, I will ask Mr. John Schlick to come up. He's going to talk about the overall bond, and then we'll wrap up with all our construction updates.
Good evening.
Good
It's
evening.
good to see you guys again.
See you too.
I've got a fairly short update from the last time I was here to give an update on overall cost for the bond, which should be included in your packet, with really just 3 projects left that we haven't contracted out the work on, and that is Work Package 11, which includes about 7 elementary schools that we're putting in secure entrances or new kitchens. Work Package 14, which is the conversion of Bethel from an elementary school to an early childhood, and then Work Package 16, which is 3 middle schools to receive secure entrances and also the career exploration centers. So the update this month, there's been a few things that have changed. First, on some of the projects that we have completed, which includes Work Package 3B, which is the high school academy spaces. There was, once the final billings were done, there was about $25,000 in savings from unused contingency, so that's been returned. On Work Package 4, which was a package of elementary secure entrances, there was some contingency savings on that one of $50,000 that has been returned. And then also the grant edition, Work Package 4A, there was some allowance and contingency savings on that project that we returned $200,000. So with that, going through the design for Work Package 11, the school district identified some additional needs from the early scope of work on those packages, which includes trying to fix some of the traffic issues at Francis Willard, and also maybe expanding the scope and some of the secure entrances to be able to better circulate the administration staff. So the scope for that one has increased a little bit, which we're now showing that estimate to be higher than the original scope of work. But overall, because of some of the savings that's been returned, the overall bond budget is still remaining at about $1.5 million under. The other project that has an update, which is Work Package 16, the design on that one is basically completed, so we've put together our final estimates, and in that one we are showing about $30,000 under budget. Of course, the next step on that one will be go to the market and bid it out, which will happen this fall.
Do you have the dates of your next 3 bids you plan to let out?
We haven't finalized those bids dates yet, but they will all be this fall. I'm guessing probably September, October. Yeah, October through probably the end of the year.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Okay, now for the fun stuff, pictures. So we're going to start at the top there with Schlegel, and we've got 15 projects to go through, so I'll go quick here. So Schlegel, that's a project that turns over here in another week and a half, and as I mentioned last time, the pictures, they're only like 3 or 4 days old, but they're already outdated. So we've got all the ceiling, you'll see the pictures there. We've got ceiling tile complete now. We've got resinous flooring, the seamless flooring in the science rooms. That's going to be complete on Friday. We're complete with carpet in the administration area, and our corridor flooring is complete too. And so next week, basically, will be final cleaning and punching the administration area. They'll start moving furniture into that space on Wednesday of next week. Our science classrooms will wrap up with casework and plumbing next week, and then FF&E moves into that science area, I think, the 30th. So, looking good. Next one. J.C. Harmon. So this is a phased project. Right now we're working on phase 1, which is about half of the administration area. We've got a second floor administration area that we're remodeling, and then we've got 2 science classrooms we're doing. So in the science rooms, we're currently doing the seamless flooring. We'll be done with that tomorrow, and then we'll go right into casework and plumbing and all the science casework. In the administration area, our grid, our casework is complete. Residence is in process. And admin number 2, a little bit farther ahead, the ceiling tile and casework's complete in that. We're starting flooring this Thursday. And FF or furniture moves into, again, the administration area late next week, and then science classrooms the following week. So, next project is Washington High School. So again, this is a two-phase project. The phase this summer is the administration remodel, and then half of the total replumb of the building. Total replumb, we're in really good shape. We are finalizing our site utilities, starting to patch back some of the asphalt and some of the areas that were disturbed with the new plumbing. In the administration area, we've actually, we're in the process of doing ceiling tile. The grid is complete. We should be done with light fixtures tomorrow, and also working on wall tile and storefront. So that project will be done at the end of next week, and then the furniture starts moving in late next week. Next project is John Fisk Elementary. So we had an addition here with cafeteria and kitchen and 2 classrooms. And then we also had some renovation work. So in the addition, we're pretty much complete. We're final cleaning that right now, minus the gym. We're going to start punching the architect punch list tomorrow, actually. The gym floor, we're waiting until the last to put that floor in. That'll go in next week. We've also got asphalt base on the site work scheduled for next week as well. And in our renovation work, we are wrapping up finishes on that part. You'll see some pictures of some of the finishes. We've actually got casework and ceiling complete as well, and we're wrapping up flooring in that space this week. So similar schedule. The classrooms actually, I think, show up on the 30th with furniture, and so we're on schedule with those projects. I'm sorry, the classroom FF&E shows up 7/24. So next project is Banneker Elementary. So we've got a small secure entry renovation there. So we are in the process of painting doors. Casework's complete. We're working on flooring there today. Actually, we finished flooring today. So the furniture for the administration shows up next Wednesday, and hopefully by the end of the week we'll be final cleaning that space. Next up is Carruthers. So we had a canopy addition there that you see. The roof is wrapping up tomorrow. We've got some asphalt coming in tomorrow as well. And the metal wall panels and the soffit, all that plywood there exposed gets a metal panel soffit and fascia. That'll go in next week. We've also got some handrails to finish up out there that'll be here at the end of the week. On the inside, looking good. We're in the process of wrapping up electrical. Our seamless flooring in the nurses' room is complete. And casework, I was actually out there today. They were buttoning up the casework. They have some wood paneling left to do. Flooring starts tomorrow on that project. And same schedule. Furniture shows up Wednesday or Thursday of next week. Quindaro. So you see a bunch of plywood there in the storefront. We've actually got glass in everywhere except one spot, and that glass is supposed to be complete next week. Basically all our finishes inside are complete, but flooring, we've got, hopefully tomorrow we'll be wrapping up the flooring. Again, hoping to get final clean started in the week, and then the furniture comes in middle to late next week. That one, we actually brought the storefront out a little bit and created a vestibule. So we did, you can see where we had to patch the existing soffit there on the outside. Next project is Douglas Elementary. So this one actually has a new kitchen. You can see a picture of it there. We've got the resinous floor complete. All our ductwork to the hood and everything is complete there. They were actually on site today starting kitchen equipment install in that space. There's also a display case we're working on. They're hoping to have the final finish on that tomorrow. And we're looking pretty good on that project. And same schedule as the rest of the elementaries, FF&E, which is the furniture piece, coming in late next week. Okay. Next one is Emmy Pearson. So we've got, again, a remodeled administration to provide a secure entrance. We've got glass is pretty much the main thing we've got left, which shows up next week. as well as signage. Pretty much everything else is complete finish-wise, casework, flooring, all of that good stuff. So same schedule as these other elementaries we've talked about. Furniture showing up next week. And all of these are based on an administration move-in of the 29th of July, week from Monday. Final elementary school renovation for the summer is Whittier Elementary. So this was a pretty small project, just a little bit of glass and some new hardware. And so we started that earlier this month, and we'll be wrapping the glazing up this week. They're working on hardware now, and same turnover. No real furniture or anything there. This was a pretty small project. Final clean this week. Next project is Wellborn. We've got a couple pictures there from the second floor showing the asphalt. So we actually have all the asphalt complete on the site, the base course that is, and the top course. It's also striped, and the administration moved in yesterday into that building. So pretty exciting. On the site work-wise, we're working on irrigation. Hopefully we'll have the south side of the site complete. You can see there the pictures. The north building is pretty much down. We've got a couple more days of haul off of that demoed project. And then we've also got the asphalt playground and all of that asphalted as well, which isn't in that picture, and it's, again, moving every day. We'll be done with all the concrete paving this week, and topsoil's in progress. So some of the site work, we anticipate that rolling into the school year, which will mostly be the field, which has been the plan all along just because of the demo and the schedule. But looking really good on that one. We're wrapping up a few punch list items inside, but it's move-in ready. I think we're going to tour that next week out here. So,
When will the playground be put back up on that one?
good question. I would anticipate the playground being complete before school, but that is actually on the district, so I'm not
Okay.
fully aware of the playground
Okay.
schedule.
And what about the symbol for the school? Some people had called. And
I'm sorry?
The symbol, I think they were
Eagle.
the eagle?
The signage?
Yeah, the signage.
So we did get all the permits for the signage, and so installation will start back up to get that completed.
Okay.
All right, next project, New Glory Willis Middle School. So you can see there, we're looking really good on the inside with finishes. We've actually started some owner training at that facility. Furniture, I think, is pretty well wrapped up in there, desks and chairs and all that stuff. So we're mostly focused on the exterior, which you'll see a few pictures on the back. So we just wrapped up demo of the existing building, so you can see that's that bottom left-hand corner grading new parking lot. So that's where the old building was. So we're actually hoping to, planning to start curbs tomorrow for the parking lot. We have asphalt. We have rock for asphalt showing up next Monday, and then asphalt, the plan is to start asphalt late next week. Staff and administration is moving into this building 8/1. So that's our target, is to get the parking lots in and get striped for the city to allow you guys to start occupying. So doing some punch list on the inside. You can see we're doing some irrigation. That north drive is complete. That's your dock area and your turnaround for deliveries there. Next project at West Park. So this is demolition of West Middle School is wrapping up. Looking pretty good on that. Not a lot to talk about there. We have started some site utilities, and then footings for the new building will start the 1st of August. But that landscape looks a lot different if you drive by there without that building there. Colby Bruce. Hopefully you've had a chance to drive by that. If you look there, you can see your new gym. The storm shelter gym is completed. They're finishing welding connections this week, and then that portion will be done. We're also getting slab on grade poured. We're working on a huge retaining wall that goes through the middle of the building. That should be wrapping up next week. And we're planning to start setting steel the first week of August on that project.
What is completion date on that?
It's for a August of 20 move-in.
Thank you.
So the last project to talk about today is Rosedale Middle School. So again, we have a kitchen and cafeteria addition, and then some administration renovation and some new classrooms in the existing building. So you can see there some pictures of your new cafeteria space. We actually started moving furniture in that space yesterday, so that area has been punched. We'll be working over the next couple of weeks to get the punch list complete on that. Our main area of focus right now is we have some third floor work and site work that we're working on. So if you look at the back page, you can see we've actually got the majority, we've got all of our base asphalt down. And so we're right now working on getting topsoil set, finishing up concrete paving, and looking to put the top course starting the 24th of July. On the inside, you'll see some pictures of the classrooms up on the third floor, which is where the old kitchen and cafeteria was. So that's coming together pretty well. We have all our grid in. We're starting ceiling tile tomorrow. Flooring starts Thursday. Should be painted out at the end of the week, and we're also working on casework right now. So that one's coming together. Furniture for the classroom spaces up there shows up July 30th, and we'll be ready for that. So. And that is all I've got to report on tonight. Unless anyone has any other questions. Pretty exciting. Hopefully, we'll see you here next month.
Really?
Thank you.
The touring of Gloria Willis and Wellborn, the site supervisors are ready either Wednesday or Thursday, anytime that you all want to agree upon, and they're ready to receive you and walk you through the buildings.
This Wednesday or Thursday?
Next Wednesday and Thursday.
Oh, yeah, today is Tuesday.
Yep.
24th,
What time? What time?
25th.
Anyway, anytime that you all can agree upon.
Well, we do that after we meet.
Yes, that'll work.
Speed this up. One question, a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So when is your next EIC meeting? When is your next meeting you're speaking about of, I don't know if you would call it bid prep meeting you're speaking
I
of?
think the EIC is the 29th.
Actually, the 31st.
The EIC meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And your 9 a.m. location?
Here, room 333.
Right next door.
Yes.
Okay. And your, I'll call it for lack of a better word, your bond discussion meeting that you usually, you have it, it's called, you identify as OCIR. You put it on our.
CMA.
Uh-huh. That next meeting is when?
That is in August. Looks like August 12th,
Time,
3 p.m.
location?
That will be in the maintenance, Doug's office, meeting room.
Okay, so if we come to the door, folks won't nut roll on us. Okay. All right. When was the meeting that you were speaking of? Are they having another one?
No, that's one.
That's on the.
That's the one you're speaking of? Okay. I think we've got it together. Thank you,
ma'am.
sirs. Reports of the superintendent.
I ask that the Kansas City Board of Education accept as an informational item a report from Moody's Investor Service as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, as recommended by myself, Charles Faust, Superintendent of Schools.
I think you all received a copy of our downgrading for our bond rating due to we purposely spent part of our contingency, and they look at that as a risk factor. So they have downgraded us. But the real issue with that is, and I've had a preliminary conversation with Dale Dennis, the state is sort of mandating that by 2020, we lower that contingency even greater, which is going to drastically reduce our bond rating. And they're not understanding why that's an issue with Moody's. And this only comes into effect if you go out to issue a new bond. It will be very hard to get a bond passed and purchased by the investors if our rating keeps dropping. Now, take into account our contingency only went down a couple of $1 million. And it was purposely done. And what the state is recommending across the state is that at the end of 2020, they're going to have a review of all districts' contingency funding. And he said to me personally, when we was out at a finance meeting, that our number need to be down close to 9 million. And that would drastically reduce our bond rating. So I'm waiting to have a discussion with him next week when we go to take our budget forms up as to their mandate is, and not just our district, it's going to hurt every district across the state that needs to issue a bond. So that's my report. More information to follow once I meet with him.
Right, the good news is not a mandate yet.
Correct.
Yet.
Correct.
The bad news is that the legislative individuals in the legislature who are not supportive of funding public schools can have this attitude that school districts are sitting on millions of dollars when they are not. But that, and actually just, we don't want to jump to number 2, but it impacts drastically our thought process as we budget, because if you say the end of 2020, you're rolling into another fiscal year. So the end of 2020 June or end of 2020 December?
June. They're going to pull the audit as your end of year data for the end of fiscal year 2020 next year.
Okay, so he's anticipating legislation to mandate that, which may or may not happen, but you could have, there's some sentiment
he
there.
He passed out some information at the meeting that it's the opinion of the legislature that if you combine all the contingencies of all the school districts, that we have more money than the state has.
Well, that's a no-brainer, but it's how you do the math. But is everyone clear what's, it's a catch-22,
Right.
and it's like playing hangman.
Yes.
Any other school districts in Kansas get a downgrade?
I don't know.
Maybe something
I
to
can
look into,
that.
because some districts have no contingency fund.
Correct.
And so they're upside down in the situation. We've had to pass legislation to give them some extra funding.
Yes.
So it's interesting, and that's a nice word.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You want to go into number 2?
Yes. We
mean,
did
number
receive
B.
the forms from the state. They was 2 days later than they said we would get them. So my team they are drastically working hard to get the forms completed. We have a meeting with Dale next Tuesday, because we have to go up there and let him review those. But the action that I need tonight is that we need to have a special board meeting on Thursday for you all to review those, so we can get them published in the paper for 10 days, and then have these public hearing at your scheduled board meeting in August.
13th.
The
What's the date
13th.
on Thursday? This Thursday?
25th, I think is,
It's what.
Right.
yeah, the 25th is next Thursday.
Yes,
Because
next Thursday.
there's some big ticket items we have not approved, and that's what we have to discuss. So we have to look carefully, because, ladies and gentlemen, I found last year's budget report about our decision to cut funds at Northwest, and I thought it was New Stanley, but it says Emerson. And so when then we started the year, it was stated that there was not a record of us taking that action. So we're going to have to be very clear in directives.
Yes, ma'am.
And to the extent, we may even want to tape the budget meetings, so that those things just don't fall between the cracks. Because I know for some of us, the issues of social workers and backfilling that cut is not clear. Again, one opinion, not many, but one opinion that maybe in view of Moody's downgrade and contingency issues, we may have to reconsider phase in renovation cost or some furniture cost. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure he also tells you, Del Dennis, there is this sometimes impossible demand to put funds in instruction. There's always this comment that, are the funds directly going to instruction? Some say, yeah, transportation is instruction. If I can't get the kid there, I can't teach them.
Right.
You got to have the lights on. So some of those costs that one considers automatic, others don't consider, and then it comes back to how much is directly involved in construction. So there's there are various factors that we have to be careful, but we have to seriously consider, what dollars are directly related to student outcomes, instruction, things that we know we want. But it's kind of like wants and needs. We may have to balance them. So we're going to have to and we always say, we have to take a scalpel instead of a hatchet for some of our cuts, for some of our items. So time, we may have to determine that also when we conclude. But Thursday, 25th?
25th.
So we won't tour on Thursday. We're not going to tour.
Okay, so then we'll move the touring to the 24th.
Maybe, but I mean, this is budget trumps.
Priority. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, had to do something. Got to do the other comments about the budget. Remember, the board is fully responsible.
Do we want to set a meeting time then for Thursday, or?
Probably just to keep moving. Before we leave, we have to set a time for that, and we have to set a time for something else. I don't remember.
The tour, if you want to go on the tour.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Public Library. Once again, is Ms. Levers here?
She's on vacation this week.
Oh, we have a Ms. Levers stand-in.
Good evening. My name is Rochelle McCauley.
We'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education accept the 2020 funds approved by the Wyandotte County Library Board as submitted by Carol Levers, Director of Libraries, and as recommended by myself, Charles Faust, Superintendent of Schools.
Great. Hello.
Hello, how are you all?
Fine, thanks.
Thank you.
Carol is out this evening. My name is Rochelle McCauley. I'm the Assistant Director of Libraries, and I will be filling in for any questions that you have for the posted agenda items for the library tonight.
So do you want to give don't go line by line, but a general explanation of what we're looking at, please?
Sure, I can do that. That is not a problem. Letter A, accept the 2020 funds approved by the Wyandotte County Library Board.
Just wait a minute, Ms. Westphal pulls it up.
Do you have it on your?
We have it. Yeah. Talking about for the audience.
I can't put it up from here.
Okay,
Would you like me to proceed?
please.
Okay. Explanation in your guys' documents was that the report was submitted to the parties on July 15th to meet the deadline. The report reflects budget activity from January 1st through January 30th. I'm sorry. Give me just a second here. Now that I'm organized, I was waiting for that. I've got my document. Apologize. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
The first thing that we're looking at is the 2020 funds that were approved by the Wyandotte County Library Board. And the explanation provides that at the Wyandotte County Library Board meeting on April 16th, 2019, they approved a 5% increase, and the mill levy was set at 6.067 fine. The funding will increase to $2,439,661. We are requesting the board to accept the 2020 funds that were approved by the Wyandotte County Library Board.
When you say 5% increase, what does that mean?
I'm going to put the assumption out there for my explanation is that's an increase in revenue based off that levy. Andy, would that be correct? From last year's.
Does that translate as a tax increase?
It's an anticipated expected increase from those revenues, yes.
How does that, what's the change? Is it stated on here? It could be, I mean, it could be $5, it could be 30 cents, but is that stated here?
Can you scroll down to the second document there? Perfect. On the far right-hand column where it says proposed, the 3% expected increase is what they were deciding if it would anticipate to that or 5%. I was not in attendance or at this meeting or an employee at that time of the system. So again, I believe that their option was to go ahead and anticipate a 5% increase based off of those anticipated numbers. If you look to the previous, you'll see that the current 2019 budget was listed along with the forecast in comparison to where that 2020 forecast is. Does that answer that question for you?
No.
No?
I see the revenue of the forecast, 3,365,622.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm saying that's expenditures.
Scroll down a little bit further. Let's look at the consolidated library total column at the bottom. Since all of those areas are lumped in together for the
Okay.
Wyandotte County Library Board, that may give you a little bit further explanation. Let's look at the 2019 forecast of $2,923
Right.
$2,923,704 in comparison to what the 2020 forecast is for that little over $3 million.
Correct.
There's that 5% adjustment for those anticipated monies.
Right. I guess what I'm asking you, define adjustment
Define adjustment?
to the taxpayer of Kansas City, Kansas, and then this is Wyandotte County. Okay, so this is a separate line item on your tax bill.
From
Okay.
my assumption, yes, that is my
All
understanding.
right. So you're recommending that, well, the board, the county library board recommended not to go with the 3% increase, but go to the 5% increase to essentially capture 3.069 million in revenue.
Yes,
Right.
that is correct.
I'm saying, is there any number on here that tells the taxpayer what is that change, what is that impact on their bill? And it may be 50 cents, but
I
is
don't
there
think
any-
this report is going to reflect that.
So it's no place there?
Yeah, I don't think it is. These are just documents that the budget manager with Unified Government presented to the board at that April 16th meeting once they had gone through those budget meetings and gave this information for them to approve. So the Wyandotte County Library Board sorted through that information, approved that, and this is kind of the final analysis that's always been presented on behalf of them from the Wyandotte County Library Board for the KCK Public Schools to review. And so I don't think it's going to give you the accurate information that you're requesting. I'm sure that further preparation could provide you answers to that if you would like.
Right, so I guess Dr. Faust or whomever, when we accept what are you saying? We're accepting the funds. We're not authorizing, they've already authorized the
5%.
levy.
Yes.
So we're just accepting their action.
Yes.
Other questions? Any questions?
I move we accept. I second it.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Nay. Thank you. I'm not sure if you were asked to do anything else, but we'll see. She asked to do anything with Turner?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'd ask that the Kansas City Board of Education accept as an informational item the Turner Library quarterly report as submitted by Carol Levers, Director of Libraries, and as recommended by myself, Superintendent of Schools.
Care to add anything?
This is an informational item. The Turner Community Library operates on a calendar year, so this is actually a 2-quarter snapshot. You're seeing from as of January 1st to June 30th.
And what is the KCK's responsibility to Turner?
As I navigate these new waters and understanding to
Okay.
how this works, I will try to portray an accurate image.
And
for
I'm
you.
not trying to trick you. It's the library system is a complex system.
It is very complex.
And we
yes.
understand that there is the pet district, Piper, Edwardsville, Turner, and ours. We understand also that KCK owns most of the buildings. We understand that. We also understand that the KCK taxpayer pays a little more because of that. And so just again, to be able to answer some questions from the community, that's what, if you can't answer, you just say you can't answer. We'll learn together.
That sounds
Okay.
like a great plan. Turner is part of that pet district with the Wyandotte County Library Board. And so Turner's funds or Turner's taxes are therefore accumulated and then allocated. How do I want to word this? Not allocated, but they are dispersed through the KCK public school. And then
Okay.
therefore those monies are collected. They are not an operating individual tax ID organization.
Right,
Is how
we
that
are.
is. That's right. So all of Turner's finances come through. We therefore direct those expenses into the KCK Public Schools for the library to be able to offset those revenues when they're received.
Like a clearinghouse, is it similar to, I hate to ask, is it similar to our special ed co-op where we collect the money?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
We use their funds to help operate their library.
Questions? It's complex.
Yes, it is.
I make a motion that we accept the report
It's informational.
for informational purposes.
A second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed.
I'd ask that the
You go.
The Kansas City Board of Education approve the payment of bills for the public libraries as submitted by Dennis Covington, Chief Financial Officer, and as recommended by myself, Charles Fowl, Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions about the payables? That, if we have any questions, we'll ask later. Thank you very much. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you. How long have you been in your position?
As of May 1st.
It's always a teaching moment.
That's right.
Thank you, ma'am. Consent agenda. Any items anyone wants to pull? I like to set aside specific items in the HR report. Now, would you like for me to identify the specific items? You want to answer
We have
that?
to just set aside the whole,
deal.
Okay, we can set aside the whole report.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, to the extent that you wanted to discuss any individual employee, it'd be appropriate to do that in executive session.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So I'd like to set aside item D for further discussion. Any other items? Motion
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda
minus item D.
minus item D.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. I would now like to just ask a couple questions about the, excuse me, term, transition to new assignment, not identifying anyone in particular. What does that term mean? Let me give you some numbers, but I don't want to identify anything.
Oh, that may have to be an executive.
Huh?
You said it may have to be an executive.
I'm sorry?
I said, does it have to be an executive session?
Defining the transition to new assignment, does that need to be an executive session?
Term transition or someone being transitioned?
No,
The
she asked
term.
the term.
What does the term mean?
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to identify anybody in particular.
You know, to the extent that there's a generic or uniform meaning to that term, we can talk about it here, but if we need to get into the specifics of an employee situation, then it'd be appropriate to do that in
Executive session.
executive, yeah.
Not looking to say anything in particular.
Doesn't that usually cover when someone's changing from like maybe a principal to ICE up somewhere else or assistant principal to principal?
Yeah, I believe this is to cover some people that were moving from one position to another. We contractually have to pay them for that transition.
They work
Okay.
extra hours.
And then I'd like to, where is this? It's not come, oh, up. I think it, just for this explanation. I believe it's in this one. What is the Conscious Discipline Institute? Travel to the Conscious Discipline Institute?
I don't know, it's going to be,
Preschool.
Okay. I'm not loading. Let me load. Open up. Please. Where's the report?
that's, yeah,
It's
145.
in the executive session, or executive content, clear to the bottom.
It's not moving.
Are you logged in?
Morning 145.
I know what it is anyway, I can ask her. Conscious Discipline Institute, we have a number of people going.
Okay, and what is your question about?
What is it?
Oh, it's a week-long institute that some of our staff is attending to be able to have a more in-depth look at conscious discipline, to be able to come back and help implement it in our preschool classrooms.
Oh, okay, so it's
So it's
preschool training.
About 7 days of training, intense training. It's not just preschool training, but we're going to implement it into our preschool classrooms. It can be used early childhood all the way up through middle and high school, but it's something that we want to implement for social emotional learning and creating positive cultures and climates in the classroom.
Is it new?
It's not new, but it's something that's taking a lot. It's growing very quickly, and it also matches with our Head Start performance standards.
Okay.
And it also has a family component to it, where we can do family home visits and bring what the kids are learning in the classroom about social emotional into the home environment.
Well, it sounds valuable.
Yeah.
Especially as you can transfer some of those, for lack of a better word, strategies to other teachers. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're
It's
welcome.
important to know. And my last question, because I don't know if I don't want to identify, but because I am a tri-director of a culturally relevant seminar, what is the diversity conference?
Thanks for that question. The diversity training is based on leaders coming together as a group to discuss culturally relevant practices. And looking at our data, we need to ensure that we meet the needs of all of our students. And so this particular conference will discuss what's happening in the classroom and how we can reach our minority students. So
I don't
we're
want to
gonna
go
support-
with you, okay? So that wasn't the point of the question.
Did I answer your question?
Sure. One day in Ithaca?
It's going to be in July, the end of this month.
Just one day can do? 3.
3 days.
One
Yes.
person.
One person, 3
Yes.
days. All right. Thank you.
Just as a matter of information, do you address behavioral stuff also?
We will definitely, do I address behavior? Well,
Well, in the seminar.
we'll definitely look at how behavior issues stem from academic issues. And so that's a big part of what's happening in our classrooms.
I'd be interested in hearing about how what kind of plan we have for our district. So when you come back, you'll be full of knowledge.
I look forward to sharing.
Thank you very much. That completes my set aside. I move, you want to go, Dr. Yeager?
I have a quick question. When someone rescinds their resignation, I thought they would be put back under the first part of the employment or rehire section, but it seems like it's throughout the document that there's been some rescinding. For example, on page number five.
Okay,
Do you know what number it is?
is?
Yes. Number 104,
We can't pull it up.
119,
That's all I can pull up.
113.
What's going on with this? My system. I'm scared to close it out and come back.
Well,
Technically under contract.
I don't,
From until August, he's technically under contract.
I think that's right, actually.
You're sending me right back with the last.
We would have to get further
Yeah.
clarity on that before they answer.
Yeah,
Okay. Just a
it's
just a
good
point of
news, though.
clarification. Right, it is good news.
We were happy
But I
about
just
that.
figured they should move in a different category.
We should put
back
it
up
in a
the
different
top.
place. Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. We'll clarify.
Okay, thank you.
Can we clarify outside of this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, please? Well, I move to approve the HR report and recommendations.
Second.
Been moved in second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Payment of bills.
I move we pay our bills.
Second.
Been moved in second. Discussion? I only have a comment, and part of it is, excuse me, once again, as Mr. Covington notes, finances, you settle Gannon decision and you think for a second there is stability and certainty. This is the language that is used, that now districts will be more certain about the funds that they will receive, and so you can plan your budgets better. When I ask about certain expenditures, of course, at this point they've already been spent, so we're approving payment. I'd like to know, and this is where we'll go, I guess, on Thursday, is where in these budgets, and this is a generic question, but it deals with food. Where in these budgets are the I'll just call them hospitality line item? How is this budgeted? How are these amounts budgeted? Before you were here, I'm always looking for the food costs, and they seem to escalate. We had the conversation. We try to tighten our belts because I thought the board needs to have some skin in the game. And we know we went over. Well, my question too says to us, we don't have to go to every banquet, and that doesn't impact student achievement. If my rule of thumb is how does it impact student achievement, it's just a generic question. Don't worry, Mr. Covington, I'm not going to ask a question you can't answer. But at this point I went through, and I'm not going to ask you to identify them, but I just went through these 2 weeks, and I came up with something like $35,000 in food cost. And so where we need to look, board needs to look again at our eating banquet going. We had a kind of a conversation, and teachers were told that Dr. Wynn doesn't want anybody having pizza on Friday, and so there were there were, some decisions made. But where are these other decisions made that it seems that, there are just a lot of food costs and that obviously they're budgeted for it. So when we look at, I guess, departments or schools, is there a hospitality line item or something?
No, when you get deeper into the actual budget string, there is a object code for food.
Uh-huh.
But it's not broken out on the report that I think you have in front of you. But there's each individual school and department has a line item in their budget that says food.
Okay.
And so that's where you would see it at.
So I guess my question is, it doesn't appear to be, again, we need to limit us, the board. We've asked the teachers to limit, but it doesn't seem that there's a lot of limit in between us and the teachers. I don't know where it is, but it's just a statement that, food costs, even as staples, you think, what are you buying, coffee or Cheetos? They don't sell much more. But
it's probably coffee.
Just a generic question that when we, money is going to get very funny as we move forward. Bottom line, explanation, end of story. Comments, questions, bills?
I just want to comment that when we look at these bills, for instance, Highland Dairy Food Companies. So we're the assumption of the $9,000 spent on probably milk, right?
Yes, for the schools.
For the schools. So as we look here, we can talk about food all day, but the reality is we have to really see what line items they are. And although, yes, we as board members do not have to go to every banquet, in these reports, I didn't see that we went to any banquets as it relates to food costs in general. So when we look at these reports, I think it's important that we also keep in mind our statement that we make to at the beginning of every board meeting, that these issues, these questions, these comments can also and should be brought up to let Dennis know, to let the superintendent know that we have these questions prior to the board meeting, so possibly they'll have answers for us when we come. And that way, if there is some costs that are missing between us and the teachers per se, we can kind of know in advance where they are so they can come with us and bring it.
And I do agree with you, and that's why at 6:45 in the evening, I didn't say item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, give me the breakout. But just a discussion of the fact that there's still some, I'll call them soft costs that may be in a July, again, milk costs. Is that an invoice that was due last month, or is that a summer school? So again, the reality of 22,000 kids cost. So, others. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Upcoming dates, it appeared. Please.
Can we, on this one, can we move the board meeting to the 24th so we can?
Right. Because that's on a, is
that'll be
25th on a Wednesday?
That's on a Thursday.
25th is Thursday.
Members, I don't know if you heard Dr. Faust suggesting to move the special board meeting to July 24th, Wednesday.
What time that day? My time is flexible. I can do whatever time.
I'm supposed to be in a workshop from 1:30 to 5 with the Kansas Attorney General about Open Meetings Act.
Mr. Covington, is this the budget meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
We need to start early.
Could we do the 17th? Is that too early?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's going to take us until the day before we take it up to Dale for his review to get it finished.
Okay.
Would that
And that's
be,
the 20,
that's tomorrow, 17th is tomorrow,
is that when
which
you're
is okay.
Tuesday, the 23rd?
Yes.
So you'd be
Wishful
ready
thinking.
As long as he don't make us make major changes.
But see, we haven't finalized everything for you, Mr. Covington. So maybe earlier? When do you have to go to Dale Dennis?
Tuesday, the 23rd.
The 23rd, so we talking about 24th.
23rd. That leaves the 22nd.
We had tentatively said the 22nd anyway,
From 12 to 4.
from 12 to 4.
At least that's what, something that was said. I don't know if it changes.
That'll work.
Saturday?
22nd.
22nd.
Monday.
The 22nd.
I'm in the wrong month, Monday.
That's a
Could
Monday.
do one.
I just want to be clear, is this a work session?
Yes.
Okay. This isn't the public hearing?
No.
It's fine.
Public hearing is still not until that first board meeting in August.
Can you do?
I can do one.
How's the 22nd over here?
I can do one.
I can do
I
it.
can't do 12.
At what time? On the
Wonderful.
You
22nd?
know, we could start at 12, and by the time you get here, we can work through some of the
22nd.
preliminaries. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, yeah, if that'll help save time.
Yeah.
I just won't be here till 1, about 1.
Can you beam us in? Can we beam you in at 12?
Oh, that's possible, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Give me a call in for 12 and then I'll,
Show up
Yeah,
in
put
person
you
at
on
1.
yeah.
Is 12 to 4 okay on the 22nd of July?
Monday, the 22nd.
And if something happens, we may be back on 24th. I don't know how if you see Dale Dennis on 23rd.
It's his review of the forms, and we can still make
Oh, just
changes
the
to the
forms.
categories. Yeah, we can still make changes to it.
Perfect.
As long as it stay in balance.
Okay.
Yeah, he just,
So folks, for sure 12 to 4 on Monday, the 22nd, how are you, Ms. Humphries?
It's fine.
Okay, but that on the 24th, we may want to have a backup. Is the 24th okay for you? 24th then okay for you?
I am flexible.
Okay. But you go at 1 o'clock?
1:30 to 5 at the.
So maybe we can do an AM meeting.
Yeah, but
How about if we, on the 22nd, see what we complete, and then if push gets to shove, we do a AM on the 24th?
that would work.
Yes.
That'll fit you as well? That go-
Can I ask a question?
Where are you?
I'm here. I just want to know if we want to have a special meeting to approve any new hires that we would want we are hiring teachers now, and they would typically be starting on the 29th of July. So I hate to introduce a wrinkle in the plan, but we really do need to either have some type of meeting that we can approve those positions, or they will not be able to start until after the board meeting.
We can add that to the meeting on the 22nd.
Can you add that in the description of the special meeting?
Yeah, you would just need to, in the meeting call, you'd have the budget work session portion, and then you'd have your open meeting session portion, which could include that agenda item.
Okay. You can have that first.
Yeah, we just posted it in the agenda.
Add it first. Okay.
So clarification on the 24th, you were saying?
Back up in case we don't finish on the 22nd, but it'd be in the AM to cater to, and have to be virtual with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as long as there's a dial-in.
I think
And so we're
technologically
going
we
to start
can
at
do
8,
that.
7, 6,
Well, our secretary just had a frowny face at
Not
8
7.
o'clock.
Not a morning person here.
I would say 9,
We'll try to make it as early as possible.
or 9 is fine.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
On the
22nd.
24th.
24th.
Is that okay for you?
You'll provide a dial-in number.
Okay. 9 a.m. on the 24th.
12 to 4 on the 24th. On the
And we'll try to be
22nd.
finished by 1, Ms. Humphries. Well, if you have to be there 1 by noon, then.
And then on
They'll save me a parking spot down there.
Okay, perfect. That'll work. Is that clear, Mr. Covington? That clear, Dr. Faust? That then is
The 24th is contingent on whether we finish.
on the 22nd.
Okay.
So then do you want to do on the 25th, do you want to do the school?
Sure.
Gloria Willis and Welborn?
I'm tempted to say, let's get the budget finished, and then we can tour. But that's just one voice.
I'm available the 25th.
We're here.
It's okay to schedule it. I won't be able to attend.
You won't be there?
No,
Oh, then it's not okay. Oh, thank you, Dr. Yeager.
I'll go on my own school stuff.
We do have one of the board meetings at Welborn in September, so get to see it then.
I say we just hold it. Anyone want to schedule it? We can schedule it next time we meet on the 22nd. The board policy discussion. If you please, and if you care to reference our policies, and I read something here where it says, and correct me, Mr. Dink, sometimes you can have discussion before you make a motion?
Sure.
Sure, okay. At the appropriate time, I'm going to make a motion that according to Board Policy BBC about establishing subcommittees, but the main driver is Board Policy BK, Board Self-Evaluation. I think in light of our HR audit, we should take some time to look at the board as it is a governing body. And so at the appropriate time, I'm going to make a motion that the board establish a board self-evaluation committee to study its governance according to this policy, policy BK, B like boy, K like Kellogg, says the board shall conduct an annual self-evaluation. Each board member shall use a self-evaluation instrument to appraise individual performance or the performance of the board as a whole. Results of these evaluations shall be discussed at least annually, and revised standards and priorities shall be developed to guide the board's development in the coming year. And that committee would take a maximum of 90 days to consider our kind of like, I guess, a strategic plan for the board. So anyone want to discuss before I make the motion? We always have the option to discuss secondly.
Yes, a clarification, we just approved the strategic plan organization. Do we have an idea of when we plan to get that started and the ball rolling for that?
Yes, so you're talking about the actual strategic plan? Yes, she will be here, actually, I think it's Monday. Is it Dr. Linkos? She's here on the
We're planning to have her here on the 29th.
29th. Okay.
So I'll actually be emailing you some details of some of the discussions that she and I had, just so we can get that planned out.
Okay.
So is the board planning to meet with her or certain members of the board or committee, or how is that going to work?
Not at the beginning, no. She'll meet with the cabinet, there'll be a strategy, and then she'll come and present things to the board. And then, if memory serves me right of how it's worked in the past, that work, and then they'll do presentations out where the board can then ask questions and then talk about where they need to be or where they want to be. But she's got to do some fact finding first.
Okay. And so, Dr. Nguyen, you're recommending that we start the process in advance of that so that we can review the policies for ourselves and form the committee?
It's more of a self-evaluation. I mean,
and then come up with a strategy for how we can better
how
improve
we
ourselves.
better can governance.
Okay.
Other questions about the motion before I make it? Because then there was always opportunity to discuss after I make it.
So do you have a tool in mind for the board to evaluate themselves?
You know, I would say we work with legal because it says there's a self-evaluation instrument.
has it been done in the past?
I can't speak to that. I can confer with Mr. Goheen and see what the process has been. I mean, as I read the policy,
BK, if you want.
the instrument does, it talks about each board member shall use a self-evaluation instrument to appraise individual performance or the performance of the board as a whole. And then there's supposed to be a collaborative discussion based upon that instrument and the results. And then there's details about the different items you're supposed to consider, items 1 through 4 that I see. But I can talk to Greg and see if this process has been used in the past, and if so, how.
I personally think maybe we should give us time to digest this suggestion that you made so that we can fully understand it, and then at another meeting to take the motion and decide if we need to do the self-evaluation, because we need some clarification on this. That's just my suggestion.
And that gets us through the budget process without getting distracted by something else.
Ready for my motion? Okay, I move that the board, in light of the HR audit, I move that the board establishes a board self-evaluation subcommittee to review its governance, as well as to follow the guidelines of the policy BK, and not to, for a maximum of 90 days, and then any recommendations from that committee, bring it back to the board. That committee would work in consultation with actually both the legal and the superintendent. That's the motion.
Second.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded that we establish a self-evaluation committee, not to exceed 90 days. Date determined whenever the board, I'm not going to change the motion, excuse me. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Motion failed. I do believe 3-3, correct? All right. Next item, executive session.
Clarification before we move on. So I believe that we are still asking for Greg or someone to look at what is the instrument that was used. So
Motion. Want me to make a motion?
A motion needs to be made for.
I think so.
I think we would. I'll make it for you. I move that we ask legal to inquire, review policy BK and report back to us next meeting? Next meeting?
With an evaluation tool that was previously used.
Review policy BK and come back with an explanation. Everyone clear?
And just to be clear, report back at the next regular meeting, because I think you have a couple special meetings.
Next regular meeting, August, whatever. Been moved? Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passed. I need a motion. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. I need we're going to move into executive session. I need a motion for the board to recess into executive session at 7 o'clock.
We have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, please.
At 7:05 for 5 minutes to discuss hearing officer's report and recommendations for an employee termination appeal pursuant to an exception for non-elected personnel under the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The board then will return to session at 7:10 with action to follow.
I'm so moved.
Second.
Moving to second discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion passed.